Good morning. How is everybody today? Welcome, welcome. We are live. I hope you can hear me. Let me check and see if I can hear it myself. Let's see. If you are just popping on, say hello. Hi, Sandra. How are you? How's your mid-morning going? We will get started in just a second. Let's see. And can you hear me okay? I'm trying to hear myself. Let's see. All right. Oh, good. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about self-talk. Crucial. Let's see. Trying to get out of this. All right. Optimizing self-talk. How is everyone doing today? I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for joining me live. It's going to be fun. I am making these about 30 minutes roughly, so I'll try to kind of just be cognizant of the time, just so, because I really appreciate you being here, so I don't want to go too long. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I can see when things pop up, so I will try to answer those as we go, if it makes sense, or at the end. And today we're going to be talking about optimizing self-talk, that internal chatter that goes on in our brains. And so I'm just it's 12:02 according to my clock. So I'm gonna give everyone just a second. And I just wanna make sure that you can hear me okay and we are good. Awesome. All right. So optimizing self-talk. Yeah. Who here has chatter that goes on in their brain? I know I do. And I really, I monitor it like crazy. So I'm pretty good. I would say I'm okay at making sure that when it comes in and I'm doing it, that I can kind of nip it in the bud quickly. But it doesn't stop. It's just, it's that voice in our brains that literally is kind of, assessing what's going on and keeping us safe. It's making sure that we don't get run over by a car, and it's also making sure that we don't do anything scary. Unfortunately, most of our self-talk is negative. And so what's happening to our brain is we literally hear this constant chatter of, possibly demeaning, belittling, outright just cruel language that happens in our brains. And that is not okay. You would never talk to someone else that way. You would never talk to your kids that way. You would never talk to strangers hopefully you wouldn't talk to strangers that way. Why would you talk to yourself that way? So we're gonna go through some very quick exercises because it's only 30 minutes. But we're going to start off with just a very simple exercise because I want to make sure that everyone is aware of where the voice is. So here's the thing. There are new studies coming out. There's a big study right now. It's been going on since about 2010 from the Hearing and Voice Project. They're in the UK, and they've been studying how the internal chatter affects us emotionally and where it actually come from. So there are parts of your brain that are stimulated, basically, when you do internal self-talk. But the thing is they're finding when they put these little electrodes all over the body, they can actually see actual changes and fluctuations in the larynx, the vocal cords. So what's happening when you do that internal chatter? It's stimulating a part of your brain that is recognizing it as speech. So what you say to yourself out loud is crucial in what you then hear in your head. So then what you hear in your head is crucial from then what you say out loud. So it's sort of a catch-22 or a chicken and the egg scenario. But what you can do is start to mold that and shape it so that you are aware of it, because the faster you can kind of stop it and think, let's say, for example, something happens and you're like, I'm so clumsy. I'm always dropping stuff. I'm such a klutz. This was so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. That is a negative internal self-talk. Now, if you feel yourself murmuring that out loud to yourself, guess what's being repeated in your brain? And it's sort of like an echo effect. It just keeps going and going. And so what happens is that echo effect then comes back and you start saying it out loud again. So what we're going to do first is a quick little exercise. You can keep your eyes open. You can close your eyes, whatever you're most comfortable with. I like to close my eyes, but we're just going to pick a word. I'm just going to say happy. Let's pick the word happy. We're going to say the word happy in our heads without vocalizing it. So we'll say it first out loud, then we're going to close our eyes and say it in our heads. So we're just going to say happy. You heard your vocal cords. Say it out loud at home or at work or wherever you are right now. Just say it out loud. Happy. So you can hear the audible change in your voice. You can hear yourself say this word. Now, when you close your eyes, I want you to say the same word in your head. Now, here's the thing. Say it a couple times. Some people are better at hearing and visualization with their eyes closed, and some people don't quite get it as readily. So as fast as it comes or as slow as it comes, just kind of do it. When you hear it in your head, pay attention to it. Now, you heard a voice in your head. You didn't have any visual stimuli when you heard it. You didn't have any audible stimuli when you heard it. There's no one around you that's repeating it. So it's not coming in. That voice that just said happy, that is your internal chatterbox. Think of it like a jewelry box that you open and close that makes music. You can wind it up and you go doo 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 doo, and it can make music, and you can close it up. That is what you need to gain control of. Now, the better you do this, the more you can recognize this and change it quickly, the more you can then diverge kind of that information that you're sensing through yourself into your kids. They won't hear you murmuring or muttering to yourself or having that internal dialogue. You'll, as a result, become more positive because you can catch it before it kind of makes you start to release, hormones that start making you feel negative or sad or bummed out or angry or anxious. And so then that will be something that then you can teach to your kids. The biggest thing is when you learn these lessons for yourself, that is where the power comes from. That is where you can teach this. And I encourage you to teach this to your kids. I encourage you, whatever you hear here, if whatever you hear right here, whatever I tell you or show you, immediately apply it to your family. Because when you start doing it and you're teaching it, you learn things differently. If you can apply it to yourself and apply it to your family and then show other people, it literally turns your brain into this was something that comes in and out, to, I need to recognize that this is important and I'll keep it in long-term stored memory. So I encourage you to do this. Now, here's the thing. What we're going to do is just go through some simple journaling exercises. You can do this now. You can just think about it. I will post this on the page, so you'll have these as well. But we're just going to kind of go through these, and I want you to just kind of think about these as we go through them. You can take down some notes, or you can just kind of allow your mind to kind of wander through these thoughts. That's okay. So what we want to do is really figure out what that voice is trying to tell you. Because the voice is there for a reason. The voice is biologically your ally. And this is kind of the hardest thing to kind of grasp because so much of our self-talk is negative, but that voice is your ally. It's your buddy. A lot of old cartoons would have an angel on one shoulder and a little demon on the other shoulder, and they were kind of talking your ears off and trying to get you to do one thing or the other. The reason why it's there is pretty much it was your evolutionary, way of being safe. And it doesn't have a job anymore. Now, because it doesn't have a job, it kind of goes haywire and it starts to kind of fire and wire and find and grapple on whatever it can to make things make sense. And when it sees you doing something, especially stepping out of your comfort zone or something that you wish that you could do better, that negative self-talk just repeats itself. So what we want to do is really give it some job, some role that it can play. So the first thing we're going to do is use a catchphrase. A catchphrase can be I got this, or, this too shall pass, or it's going to be great, or just do it. Your catchphrase is going to be the way you switch or reframe whatever's happening in your brain. So if you catch yourself saying, I shouldn't have done that. Oh my gosh, I did it again. I can't believe I can't remember how to do this. Oh, I'm so stupid. This is ridiculous. Or if you see your kids saying this, and this is really big with kids because as they're learning things really get challenging, especially let's say learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to spell, math, pretty much anything can be a challenge and they haven't quite gotten it yet. But what happens is that internal chatter starts to tell them, you're never going to get this. This is too hard for you. Just give up. And when you start seeing this in your kids, and especially when you see this in yourself, you want to reframe that. You want to say, you know what? Hey, once upon a time, you couldn't walk, right? Or you couldn't read and now you can, right? Or you didn't know how to spell, words like cat or the, and now you're good at it. So you haven't gotten this yet, but you will. And teach them to have a catchphrase. So whenever they start to hear themselves saying like, oh, I can't do this. This is like too hard for me. Have them say something like, I can do this. Because you're telling your brain, you're telling that negative self-talk, nope, you're wrong. And I have the solution. I can do this. Or I can do this soon. Or I will get this. Whatever catchphrase you want to do. Or I'm good at this, or I will be good at this soon, And so you just want to give yourself a catchphrase, something that can kind of, click yourself back into like, oh, I've got this. Okay. I'm not doing the self-talk. I'm not doing anything negative. I'm going to keep going forward. I've got this, right? You can tell I like to use I got this. So the next thing we're going to do is now name that mindset. When we name the mindset and we place a name onto it, it can help us wrap our brains around what's happening. So let's say, you did something that you didn't like and now you're feeling guilty for it. You're feeling kind of like, oh, I should have gotten this by now. Why am I struggling with this? And you feel kind of like either a guilt or a shame or an anger. Give it a name. Give it the name of guilt. Okay, I recognize this is making me feel guilty. Okay, now that I've given it that name, do I really need to feel guilty about this? This is a challenging topic. This is a challenging subject. This is something that I have not, mastered yet. But I'm getting better at it. Once it has a name, it no longer has to echo because it's been received. Remember, your brain saying, hey, think of this, think of this, think of this, think of this, keep this in your mind. Once it's been received, your brain says, oh, okay, there's no impending doom. You've received the message. Got it. Now I can move on to something else. So name it. Give it a name. This is anger. This is fear. This is, betrayal. This is frustration. This is guilt. This is sadness. You can also, with little kids, young kids don't quite have a lot of reference points to those feelings. So you can either share reference points that make sense for their age that you've experienced. So they have something to kind of go from. You can use pop culture and media, so movies that they may have seen and that they can kind of remember and identify, oh yeah, that character had anger. That's kind of what anger looks like. Or that character had sadness or frustration. That's what that looks like. So they can start to, name it and give it an actual name. And you can also just name it by saying, hey, you know what, brain, I recognize that you're going down that path. I don't need it. Take a hike. You're done. You're on a break. And you can do it that way as well. So whichever one makes more sense and is more comfortable, comes more naturally to you, that's okay. The third one is the role play with your fixed mindset. Now, when role playing with your fixed mindset, you want to take sort of the separated, objective view. So you're going to kind of sit your mindset down like it's a person, like it's a separate person, and then literally talk to it. We're going to role play. This is what frustration is looking like and feeling like to me. And this is what, an objective perspective. All right, let's take a step back and kind of separate ourselves from it slightly and be like, is this really something that I need to be frustrated with? Is this really something that is causing immediate impending doom or harm? Or is this, am I frustrated with this? Would someone else also be frustrated with this? Is this a legitimate frustration? If it is, how can I find a solution around this frustration? If it's not, if you think, you know what, I'm trying to control this too much and that's why I'm getting frustrated, or I'm too tired so I'm not really thinking clearly, or I'm hungry so I'm distracted, or there's too many things around me happening so I'm distracted and that's why I'm frustrated. When you start to role play with it and think of it from another person's perspective, you can start to realize how you can change the situation. And that is the most important in anything that you do. You have control. You have the power. Your mindset works for you. And so many of us, it works kind of against us, but we can take back that power and start to shape it so it's our ally. Okay. Now the next one I really like. This one is my favorite. I love journaling. So because I love journaling so much, I like writing letters. I like writing things out. There's a difference in the brain when you write something versus typing or just saying it out loud. When you write it, it kind of goes more internal. And so you can write a letter to your fixed mindset. You can literally write yourself a letter, and you can say something like, "Dear fixed mindset," or "Dear anger," or "Dear frustration," or "Dear sadness. I recognize that you are trying to tell me to either grow or heal or, take charge or experience these feelings in this situation. But I've already received the message. I've chosen to do, fill in blank, whatever makes sense for your situation. And I no longer need you to remind me of this. Sincerely, your higher consciousness or your brain or Sasha." And that way, when you write the letter, you've given your brain a signal. You've told it, this is no longer an issue. This is done. We're done with this. We can let it go. We can just release it. You can either tear it up, you can shred it, you can recycle it, you can stuff it into a folder, whatever makes sense for you. But writing it a letter really, really helps. Hi there. Thank you for joining us. The next one is to draw what your fixed mindset looks like. And this is so good for kids, especially young kids. Because again, young children don't really have a lot of reference points. They may feel, frustrated, and they may feel frustrated a lot, but they don't have a lot of reference points from their experience to deal with that frustration. So when you ask a child, hey, can we draw what frustration looks like? You're going to get a window into their brain, and that window will give you so many insights and better understanding to what they're feeling. Because let's face it, when you ask a kid why they're frustrated, they could come up with 100 answers that make no sense to you as an adult. And you can say, oh, well, this is why, and this is why, and this is this. And you can give them lots of, sort of what you would consider rational explanations. And yet they're not really conveying the true frustration. I've had experiences where my daughter's come home from school and she just, within a couple minutes, she's just like raging mad. She's just in a bad mood. And I think, okay, gosh, did something trigger? What happened at school? What's this? What's that? She'll blame it on, her brother. Her brother did this and now she's upset, or I did this and she's upset. And usually after a few minutes, and we kind of work with her, all of a sudden we realize, oh, something happened at school. She had to do extra work and she missed her plan due review, which is her creative time, and she loves that time. So because she did that, she didn't get to do plan due review, and then she had to spend extra time doing, some work and she missed some recess. So, that becomes a frustration that just sits there and lingers until throughout the day she's got to process that information. And so kids, she's 6 now, so she's able to kind of put those into some words at a certain point. She opens up enough to let that come through. But younger kids, even 5 and 6 year olds, it's still hard. Sometimes it can take an hour or 2 or even a day for them to really come to terms with those feelings. But if you give them a piece of paper and you say, draw out what frustration looks like, or let's draw what frustration feels like to you right now, you are going to get some really interesting art. And that art is going to really tell you, oh, either A, this is a scenario, you might recognize a scenario that actually occurred. Number 2, the feelings are being projected towards someone or internalized by something that happened. Number 3, you're going to see that they're actually trying to, place a name to that feeling, and it may not be frustration at all. They actually might be angry and they're confused about what the label is for that feeling, or they might be, hurt by something that someone else did, and they're saying that they're frustrated because that's a word you gave them, but they're actually hurt. And so you can really figure out what exactly it is that they're feeling through the pictures, through the images. And then basically just using color, it's sort of another version of color therapy, art therapy. getting them out of their body, getting those feelings and emotions out and onto paper helps them release them and let them go. And then, you might find that after drawing for 30 minutes, they're over it. Like it never even happened. And that's good. They don't need to continue talking about it necessarily. They don't need to revisit it because they've literally let it go. Kids are better at letting things go than us adults. We like to hold on to them a little bit longer and really kind of mull them over. And then that becomes the internal chatter. But if your kid lets it go fast, you don't have to revisit it. They're not going to, most of the time it's not going to come back up. So just to recap, number one, you can use a catchphrase. Like, I got this. Whenever you hear that internal chatter or whenever you see your child using internal chatter and they're starting to get, that sort of that self-demeaning talk, give them a catchphrase. Say, hey, you know what? Let's use a catchphrase of, sometimes everything's going to be okay. Or I haven't learned it yet. Whatever it is that kind of triggers them to kind of like, oh, okay, that's true. Yeah, I can do this, or just I can do this. The next one is name your fixed mindset. Literally give them the language. Give them as many vocabulary words as they can and as you can. So if you're feeling a feeling and you're thinking, this feeling is, I don't feel jealous. What is this feeling that I feel? Maybe I can go to a thesaurus or online and start to look up words and really kind of pinpoint what is this word actually, because the moment you get it labeled, your brain can process it. So many of our feelings don't get labeled accurately, and then it's just so hard to process, and then that's where that echo comes from, where that self-chatter just keeps going and going and going. And remember, whatever you're saying out loud to yourself is still resonating. Those studies are pretty convincing that when we say something out loud, our internal chatter will shift. So if you hear yourself saying, I can't do this, I'm never going to be good at this, or, oh, I'm so stupid because I did this. Literally, if that's your mind chatter, start to say out loud, I can do this. I may not be good at it yet, but I can do this. And once you start doing that, remember, the internal chatter will still resonate in that voice box, which means what you say out loud will affect your internal chatter. What you say in your internal chatter will also affect what you speak out loud. So it's a two-way street. This street keeps going round and round and round. So make sure that you're giving yourself almost an affirmation that you can say out loud, something that makes you feel good. The fourth one here is go ahead and write a letter. And then again, that's my favorite. I love writing letters to things that I might be, struggling with. I love journaling. So writing yourself a letter, literally, dear internal chatter, dear mindset, dear, negative self-talk, whatever it is you want to call it, dear, Sasha's, negative voice, whatever it is. Write out a letter saying, thank you so much. I appreciate your insight. You're no longer needed. I am doing this with this situation, and, you can be done. You can do whatever you want with that letter, but let it go. Literally release it. And the last one, of course, is draw what you actually feel. Draw your fixed mindset. What would it feel like, or what would it look like? And you can do either one. You can do both. This also works still really well for adults. And again, when you start putting these practices into your life and you start really experiencing the shifts in them, you can then teach those to your kids. Plus, monkey see, monkey do. Your kids will start to immediately pick up on what you're doing. All the work kind of begins with us, especially when those kids are young. They see what we're doing and they are literally internalizing, oh, mom is now drawing a picture of her feelings. That's a thing. I can draw a picture of my feelings. It can also be a wonderful bonding experience, because once you open up this dialogue of, this is what I'm doing and this is how it's helping me and this is why I'm doing it, then your kids start to see, oh, these feelings are not scary. They're not terrifying. I can discuss them. I can feel them with ease and allow them to have their purpose and then let them go. And that is the most powerful thing. Again, you want to make sure that all of your self-chatter, all of your internal voice chatter has a way to get out, because it will come out eventually. It'll come out either through depression, anxiety, random explosive behavior, absolute sadness, it will come out, and you want to give it a cathartic way to come out, a release that is, valid, that does you justice, so you feel good about the situation instead of, like binge eating ice cream or crying or, or getting angry at something. So I hope these help you, and I hope that you practice them at home yourself and teach them to your daughters and your sons and your family in general. But I'll take questions now. Does anyone have any questions? I can kind of see. Let's see. How's everyone doing today? We have sunshine. We're just north of Seattle. We have sunshine today, and it feels so good. Yeah. Let's see. We're right at the 30-minute mark, and I really want to respect everyone's time. So I don't want to go too long. And I'm still trying to get these to save to Instagram. I've been saving them. I've been putting them on my YouTube channel. And you can see them again on the website. I always encourage everyone to tag yourself so you can kind of come back to it. But they're not saving outside of stories. So I'll keep working on that. And then also, I forgot to mention. Okay, so I have 2 3-part video series that I've made for all of you mamas out there. The first one is about how to reframe, because reframing is huge. So if you can start reframing words and reframing how your mindset works, then you can teach your kids how to reframe, and then they're ahead of the curve, so they know how to shift any situation from a negative to a positive. I have that one. It's in link in bio. And then I also just made another one that is a 3-part breathing series. These are techniques that literally have sometimes practically saved my butt and saved my life in getting out of sort of a negative feeling, and also preventing me from losing my temper with my kids. They are incredible. They're super easy to do, and it's super helpful with mama fatigue. So if you're feeling any mama fatigue, definitely sign up for that one. They're totally free. Link in bio. And I think, and there's also a link on my website, which is just sasharanke.com. So definitely check those out. And then, does anyone have any questions about optimizing self-talk, or anything else for that matter? Any questions? No? No questions? Well, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do a quick wave because I can push these. Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. Any mom questions out there? Any mama struggles? I am currently working on, I might have blocked my mic. I'm currently working on a course, an inexpensive course, because I really want I feel like everyone needs these, and I feel like some of the things are too expensive out there. I want to make sure that everyone has access to it. So I would love to hear any of your mom struggles, because I'm definitely trying to make sure that I kind of pack this with as much information as I possibly can. And I love doing these Saturday lives because they're little tidbits, easy bite-sized chunks. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. We're at 12:27. If there's no questions, I'm going to kind of wrap it up. And again, check back, link in bio for more. We do these every Saturday. Noon seems to be a good time. I'm at Pacific Standard Time, so I am just north of Seattle in Washington State. I'm on the West Coast here. And I will definitely post the journal prompts in the feed, so you can also see those. I love making sure those are available for everybody. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming, and I will hopefully see you again next Saturday. And if you do have any questions, anything comes up, definitely comment below. I do respond as many as I possibly can. And although I'm a one-woman show, so give me usually a little bit of turnaround for that. And yeah, so have a wonderful weekend, and I hope wherever you are having sunshine. I am loving the sunshine right now. My kids are at the park, so with Daddy, so I get to just enjoy some mama time now. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for coming, and I hope you put these into practice. They are literally, optimizing self-talk is a huge game changer when it comes to going from positive to negative, negative, positive, getting that cycle turned around. And once you start to get that moving, it's like a train. It takes a while to kind of get momentum, but once you build some momentum, it's a snowball effect from there. You'll be doing it like a pro. It's super easy. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, gosh, I have no idea how all these positive things have been happening in my life, but you'll like radiate positivity. So it's so much fun. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon. Thank you.